Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, everyone out there. Hopefully you're having a great week and hey, you're ready to cap it off with a great program because we have none other than Ralph Bond, our resident science and tech trends correspondent, ready, waiting, standing by, and everyone, hey, hopefully you're having a great Friday. So first things first, before I say anything else, I just have to get this out of the way. I have to say that next week, due to personal matters, Computer America will be running best ofs Monday through Friday. Yep, we're taking a whole week off. I wish I was here to, kind of put on the show for you guys, but we will be back the following Monday after next week. And yeah, so I've said that all this week. Hopefully this doesn't catch anyone by surprise. And if you're wondering why, it's just nothing bad. It's, just something that we have to do. And hey, we'll be back the following week. So with that being said, everyone, welcome into the program. Before we get started, computeramerica.com, that will have everything that you need to know, including show notes, links, articles, pictures, videos, and more. Of course, anything and everything that we talk about here today will be found at computeramerica.com. For those of you listening to us on IRN, thank you so much. And for those listening to us through the live video portion or the podcast, hey, we love you too. Now, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and just get today's show started and, bring Ralph on and just have a fun show because, these are some of my favorite shows that, we schedule him. He's on the second Friday of every month. You can set your clock to it. And, these are really just fun, relaxing stories, especially stories that, as, Ralph has pointed out before, really highlight, kind of the positives in tech a lot of times. I know that, actually, I think last month we did a lot of scary stories, so that was fun. But most time they show the good parts of tech and a lot of stories that we just don't really get to throughout the rest of the week. So I'm looking forward to this. Everyone, once again, longtime Computer America correspondent, used to work with Intel, Autodesk, and now, of course, he is our resident science and tech trends correspondent. Everyone, welcome onto the program once again, Ralph Bond. Ralph, how you doing?
Okay, great to be here. Yes, sometimes we sneak in some scary, spooky technology, but not that much. Most of it's pretty positive.
Well, yeah, that's what you have to remember is that, Ralph, you aren't making the scary stuff. The scary stuff is happening, and hey, you have to keep aware of it. You have to keep an eye on it. So it's okay. So Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Not bad. Of course, gearing up for next week. It's not a vacation, but it is time that we have to take off. So, I apologize for kind of leading the show off with that. But I'm also looking forward to today's show. So why don't we go ahead and before we get started, for anyone out there who may not be familiar with Ralph Bond, which I find is just impossible at this point, but give us a little bit of background on who Ralph is.
Sure. Like Ben said, I spent the last 10 and a half years approximately of my working career. I'm semi-retired now with Autodesk. Wonderful experience. And then prior to that, about almost 14 years with Intel Corporation. And then prior to that, all kinds of jobs in high tech marketing, communications and press relations and all this kind of good stuff going all the way back to before the IBM PC came out when I was working for a mini computer company in Orange County, California. So many years of being around the high-tech community, and now as a wonderful semi-retired hobby, I just love being the science and tech correspondent for Computer America. So there's a little snapshot of me. And if you want to know more about me, it's real easy. If you have the show notes, which you should come to the Computer America website, folks, get the show notes because it's going to give you all the information, links, and links to the videos and pictures that Ben mentioned. But it also has a link to my website. You can learn more about me if you're so inclined.
Yep, and those will be up right after the program. But because we just put those up before, but then I realized that the show notes make more sense if they go up after, and we can include anything that we can change or go on tangent. So, find those after the program. But now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with all these different stories, and they're stories that can encapsulate anything that is high tech science. There's been a lot of medicine and construction and things like that. Stories that like I said, just don't fit in anywhere else in our programming. So we definitely appreciate Ralph, the stories that you bring to us. And hey, why don't we go ahead and start with story number 1?
Yeah, story number 1. This is really fun. Comes from CNN, a story by Scotty Andrew, and it's an important story that, really the mainstream overall radio and TV networks and so forth, you just don't find these stories, and yet they're pretty darn important. So I wanted to share this one. Headline is, NASA is sending a helicopter to Mars. It'll be the first aircraft to fly on another planet. And if you have the show notes, there's a link, of course, there's a groovy picture. And right away, to clarify, it's not a helicopter that the astronauts are going to get into and, someday fly around. No. It's really a 4-pound, very elegant drone. So one little truth in lending setting here, because when someone says helicopter, they think, oh my goodness, it's passenger capable. No. It's really a very glorified drone. So the story says, before humans make it to Mars, NASA will send a helicopter to scope out the terrain. And as I mentioned before, it's about 4 pounds. Engineers have attached a helicopter to the Mars 2020 rover ahead of its launch next summer. And if it flies successfully, it will be the first aircraft to fly on another planet, NASA said. So that's really very cool, right? Gets even more cool, I think, in my opinion. So my first reaction, a little personal note here in the notes, considering the thin Martian atmosphere, which is equivalent to about 1% of the Earth's atmosphere at sea level. Actually, it's just slightly less than 1% is dense. Think of the challenge from an aerodynamics point of view of making this little drone work, right?
So let's pretend that I don't understand that. I'm telling you, I completely understand this. I am very, very smart. But let's pretend I don't. What does it matter that the atmosphere is 1%? I mean, obviously there's going to be things like air and wind, and a helicopter pushes air down with its blades, and that creates lift. But what does a lack of an atmosphere actually mean for trying to create that lift?
And I can tell you from my old days in the National Guard a billion years ago when I was a teenager, and we were at Fort Irwin, which is out in the Mojave tracking station, Death Valley kind of stuff, right? And we'd be in helicopters, and not only does air density matter, but temperature matters, because when it was 120-something degrees outside, the helicopter pilots really had a hard time. So the point being is, the atmosphere, its air density and temperature have a bearing on a rotor wing, which is what a helicopter is, vehicle, or a drone that uses rotors. It all has a bearing on the amount of lift and push and so forth. I'm not explaining it very well from a physics point of view, but I think you get the picture. So think about this. Slightly less than 1% the density of the Earth's atmosphere, and you've got to come up with a rotor drone that's going to work. And if you look at the picture that's in the show notes and the pictures that NASA has published, and the video too, there's really some great stuff. You can see how very, very long the rotor wings are on this drone. And that makes sense given the very, very shallow density of that atmosphere.
Right. So I guess with less dense atmosphere, those blades have to just go that much faster, which of course, is all the more challenging. So please continue.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really cool that the article talks about says it's a solar-powered Mars helicopter will be safely stowed underneath the rover until it lands at the Jezero crater. Now, I separated out some words to help pronounce them and so forth in the show notes, but actually it's all one word run together. So Jezero crater, and this is where scientists believe water once flowed. So there's a method behind their madness as to why they're going to send the 2020 Mars rover to this crater and why they want to have this copter, this drone there as well. So the craft will detach from the rover and explore Mars from the air while the rover collects samples on the ground. Now, how cool is this? Think about this for a second, guys. We've had rovers for a long time, and they're wonderful, right? They crawl along on their little treads, and they get samples, and they do their thing, and they transmit information back to Earth, and it's all wonderful. But now, what a cool idea, a symbiotic relationship with the rover going across the terrain with a drone overhead and coordinating with each other. How cool is that? So we're going to get an incredibly increased amount of information and flexibility as to where you can go to look at things, because a rover, of course, is just going to be somewhat limited to the terrain, right?
I don't, because admittedly there's only been a handful of Mars rovers out there, but wasn't there a Mars rover that actually got stuck on rough terrain? I think they were trying to go over like
sounds really familiar.
Yeah. I think they went over like a lip of a crater or something like that, and the wheel got stuck. And of course, it's still a stationary science essentially station, but I guess the drone would help them navigate, kind of say the easiest, best route to take, because those rovers do get beat up over time.
Oh, sure, of course, and it stands to reason. And it's a gamble. You can't know exactly what kind of terrain a rover is going to encounter. Mm-hmm. So as this story says, it goes on, it says, if all goes well, the autonomous helicopter, they keep calling it a helicopter, right, but really, guys, it's a great big drone, will snapshot aerial views of Martian cliffs, caves, and craters that the land-bound rover can't explore. So I just love it. So many reasons I love this story. NASA said it hopes the helicopter will eventually carry tools around the planet and guide astronauts when they arrive. Now, that's going into the future, of course, right? Pretty cool. The rover launches in July of 2020, and it won't arrive at the Jezero crater until February 18, 2021. That's the scheduled landing. But if the helicopter soars, it'll provide never-before-seen views of the red planet. So, hooray, I love it. I just think it's a great marriage of drone and aerial drone and a rover. It's really super cool story.
Yeah, it's definitely the idea that a lot of really most if not all the pictures that we have of Mars are from the ground view, because that's where our drones have been.
Right.
Whatever views we have on kind of entry onto the surface, but to be able to fly on the surface, and like they said, solar powered. So hopefully this thing can I don't know the distance. I'm betting it goes a couple hundred meters before it runs out of battery. But if it can keep recharging, it can, kind of take a couple 100-meter leap every time.
Yeah, so like leapfrog kind of.
Yeah, I assume.
For a bit, charge up, go for a bit more.
I assume. So, hey, and this is definitely a different kind of rover. And actually, as an aside, Ralph, just so everyone is aware of it, do you recall a couple days ago, India actually lost kind of control with their lunar rover, I think.
Yes. And so that's another argument for augmenting a rover with a little drone, so you can, if you lose the rover, at least maybe you might still have contact with the drone and be able to get information accordingly. You wouldn't get necessarily, maybe you can still get samples. I don't know, maybe the drone can land, a little arm goes down and grabs sample. Who knows? But I mean, it's a good point, because the rovers are going to be susceptible to so many variables and so many possible failures due to terrain.
Are you saying it's as difficult as rocket science? I can't believe it.
No, I think it's as gambling. It's a gambling thing like Vegas. It's sort of like, hope for the best.
Yeah. So and hey, but I did want to give a big shout out to India, because they would have been, and I think they're going to get it within only so much. It's only a matter of time before they're the fourth country in the world to put something on the moon. So
I think it's exciting.
Hey, it's just the more people in space, the better, and the better for everyone. And hey, we get to report the very, very cool news. But now that's story number one, and why don't we go ahead and I guess drone leap over to story number two.
Yeah, it's something quite different.
Clocks are, clocks were or they continue to be an obsession for Craig. Craig has a ton of clocks in his office.
Okay.
If you go, and his big thing is more about the different displays of clocks. Something that looks interesting or looks weird, or displays time in a weird way. But there are other clocks that we often report on about the accuracy of time.
Yeah.
And I did not hear about the story. I remember hearing a story about maybe a year or two ago where the amount of decimals that they're getting the accuracy down to is like, and I remember joking about every time a story like this comes out, I'm like, oh, well, thank goodness, because it's like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second. But I guess... But really, I guess for scientific purposes and measuring things on a large scale, it matters. It matters, maybe not to us, but it matters in the grand scheme of science. So, story number 2, I didn't hear anything about this.
I know, and that's another point. I like to look for things that kind of get lost, if you want to say, that don't get the big pickup, the big exposure to our regular broadcast outlets. So this is a good example of that. This comes from ABC News. Now, it was an ABC News story. Credit to them for that. Headline is, "This is the world's most accurate clock for now." Anyways, that's literally the title of this. It was a video segment, but had some transcriptions and so forth. The point before we go on is that different laboratories, different groups around the world are competing all the time to have the most accurate clock. And so it leapfrogs. You know, one guy wins for a while and the next group wins and so on. But right now, today, the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Boulder, Colorado, has developed the world's most accurate clock, again, for now. ABC News, as I mentioned before. If you've got the show notes, you can see the picture and see some links and so forth. Here we go. Here's the story. At its heart is a single positively charged aluminum ion trapped in electromagnetic fields and cooled to near absolute zero. And that sets the clock's tick-tock, its heartbeat. An ion, by the way, is an atom or molecule with a net electric charge due to the loss or gain of one or more electrons. A little side note there. Now, the ion for this clock has been shaped by nature to absorb a very specific frequency of ultraviolet light. This gets very geeky for folks. And scientists use it to tune a laser to the same frequency. The steady ups and downs of the laser's light wave, get ready for this, more than a quadrillion per second, mark the passage of time. Now, to put this into perspective, you're talking about infinitesimal numbers.
Yeah.
A quadrillion, just get ready for this. This is even worse than our national debt. A quadrillion is 1,000 trillion. Wow.
I'm trying to think.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I'm trying to think real quick how many zeros that is. So 9's a million, 12 is a billion, 15 is a trillion. So that means this thing will be 18 zeros would be a quadrillion. That's every second.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
With this development, scientists have reached a long sought after level of accuracy. I love this next little factoid in the story. It would take 33 billion years for the new timekeeper to gain or lose a single or mere second. 33 billion years.
You know, and I'm actually kind of interested in, 33 billion years. That's, well, let's see, the universe has only been around for like, what, 15 or something? The youngin' that our universe is. Yeah. But I'm actually curious, like 33 billion years for a second, I get that. And you're going to go over the use cases, but I'm actually kind of interested at how accurate, how accurate is it for people who are looking for accuracy? Because obviously if you're measuring things with this kind of clock, you aren't measuring things in seconds. You're measuring them in, picoseconds. Like even smaller. I'm wondering how accurate that is, or if they're obviously they must be, if they're still looking for more accuracy even after this.
Yeah, that was certainly something that came to my mind. I thought at some point, it's sort of like I was at Best Buy the other day, and here's a big display for 8K televisions.
Yeah.
So at one point, is the human eye simply not going to be able to discern?
Well,
there's got to be some kind of cutoff. So wouldn't there be the analogy to that in time?
Yeah.
Right?
So before you get me started on 8K, let's go ahead and continue with the article.
Don't go there. I saw a story about a 16K for big, huge theater displays.
Right.
So that's another story too. Okay, so and then it says, the article says, why this drive for super accuracy? What's the motivation? These ultra accurate clocks, are used as, and this was interesting to me, of course, primary standards for international time distribution services. Dang, that makes sense. Again, we go back to the conversation you and I just had. How much more accurate do you need for just human timekeeping? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now this next bullet was interesting in the story. To control the wave frequency of television broadcasts. I didn't know anything about that. And of course, no surprise, in global navigation, satellite systems such as GPS. All that makes sense. But again, how much more accuracy do you need to supremely conquer all of those usage models? I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm sure that some of them are for experiments, for deep space exploration and observations and things like that.
Right.
I'm sure there's more use cases, besides these, but these are the ones that affect, the everyday person. So good choice in which ones to kind of highlight. To control the wave frequency of television broadcast, I mean, we are surrounded by frequencies. We're surrounded by short range, long range, radio, television, all Wi-Fi frequencies, things like that. I would always assume that the difference in controlling the wave frequency would come from a technological standpoint of like the thing broadcasting it and the thing receiving it. Like those were the bottlenecks, not the, I guess, accuracy of the wave. So I don't know. That's very interesting. I never would have thought about the television broadcast. So.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's face it. Eventually, television is going to go away anyways, and it's all going to be on the internet. So hey,
5G.
We assume
5G and beyond.
We assume. So yeah, and like you said, this is something that I didn't pick up on, but this story comes out every year or two, where they found a new way. I definitely like how you explained how they're able to do it with the ion and converting that to UV light and turns that into a laser.
Tuning the laser frequency to that.
Yeah, and then I guess lasers are now keeping time. It's lasers are kind of like carbon nanotubes, where it's like if you ever want something to seem futuristic or smart, it's like, how does it work? Lasers, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, so hey, lasers for timekeeping, great. Story number three. We have time to get into this before the break. Actually, so that is a picture of a gut, of a human gut. So just wanted to make sure that if you're watching the video portion,
on the guts.
Yeah, and I have so much to say about like the gut bacteria of people that I'm looking forward to this story. And yeah, I'll go ahead and let you get started.
We're all personally invested in this story. Here we go. So this comes from Engadget's story by Georgiana Torbett. Scientists at Harvard University. Boy, Harvard University science research is really just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, scientists at Harvard University create gut gel Band-Aid made from the body's own bacteria. How could you resist that headline? I couldn't. This is fascinating. Now, the story says if you get a cut on your skin, of course you stick a Band-Aid on it. But what if you get a wound in your gut? Always a problem, right? When doctors treat injuries to the intestines, they can't use patches or bandages, of course, because these materials won't stick to the slippery intestinal walls.
I've never known the texture of my intestinal wall, so thank you.
Well, have you ever cleaned a fish? You kind of get the same.
Luckily, no, but go ahead.
Now, a team from Harvard University has come up with a solution for this problem by using the body's own bacteria in a gel form. Wow. The hydrogel, as it is called, is made from nanofibers, which can adhere to the walls of the gut, created by engineering, wait for it, E. coli bacteria that naturally exist in our digestive systems. And then I have a little personal aside. Wait, E. coli is bad.
That would be the first knee-jerk reaction, right?
Of course, the scientists use a non-pathogenic version of E. coli, which won't make you sick and actually helps to keep the gut healthy. Who knew? And the engineered bacteria can be grown in a lab and then added to syringes or sprays, thought that's cool, to be introduced to the intestinal wounds and start their healing work. I love medical science. I just love to see this stuff. And Harvard, follow Harvard, track their press announcements, because these men and women at Harvard are doing some amazing. We always think of MIT. We always think of this, and all those wonderful. But Harvard, my goodness, they're doing some incredible scientific research these days.
Harvard and MIT, I mean, they're two of the most notable, and really, I think that they get, they get the most grants, they get the most funding, they get the most, that kind of thing. My brother Aaron, who's been on the show before, people who can, track back those shows way back when, he's actually doing some research research at the University of Boulder, Colorado. So,
Oh, cool.
and which actually I think Boulder, actually the previous story about the timekeeping actually happened in Boulder, Colorado as well. So I was like, oh,
Yeah,
hey.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that universities all over the country are doing amazing work. It's so much easier to get funding and to do really amazing things from the likes of Harvard and MIT. So, yeah, just universities in general. I don't think they get enough pats on the back. I know that they get, kind of kicked around for being so expensive and, that kind of thing. But
All worth it.
at the same time, I think that they do, like a lot of them do amazing work. Now, my tangent to the story about gut bacteria, Ralph, I don't know if you've read any other research coming out about gut bacteria and how important it is to your overall health.
I'm certainly generally aware, but
Well, yeah, and like when we get into like the specifics and like what we can kind of expect from the gut bacteria, I think that they found a new link to Alzheimer's and gut bacteria and how they're going to be able to slow, because it's something about the toxins that come into your blood system because there's an imbalance in your gut bacteria. They're hoping to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease through your gut and not your brain. And not really a cure, but another preventative step that they can take before you
gosh,
get
even
it.
if it just arrested the progress of the disease. Oh my gosh.
And really just like the connection from your gut to your brain. I know that craving a cheeseburger and it's all you can think about is a cheeseburger is like how people really think about it. But I've even had it explained to me at certain points that your gut bacteria is you. Like the reason that our brains have grown so massive and complex and we're able to do all this stuff is so that we can nurture this gut bacteria that we have. And really it's the gut bacteria that controls our bodies, not really our brains control our motor functions, but everything about us is more about protecting our gut biome. And that's
And Ben, to go a little bit under the weird mind-boggling things to think about. This is something that's occurred to me for so many years. I've thought, you and I think of each other as, I'm Ralph, you're Ben.
Right.
Who is Ralph? Ralph is really a thing. I'm like a universe of all kinds of living beings.
Of course.
All the cells in my body, the bacteria, these are all living, you could say, individual things. And I'm just sort of this galaxy of all this stuff put together. But, to keep our sanity, we have to think of Ralph as Ralph, me as me, you as you. But really, we're a walking galaxy of an incredible ecosystem of billions of living things. Right?
See, and I've never
weird thing to think about.
I've never even taken it that far, but I have had it. I have heard it that it's not even like this galaxy that you're talking about. But imagine if it's like a galaxy, but it's this giant supportive network that at the center of it is not your brain, is not your sense of self.
Yeah.
It is your gut bacteria, and everything around you and everything that is you is there to support your gut bacteria. And we can even see that symptoms of depression, symptoms of course, eating disorders and things like that. I'm sure that you've heard, and it made so much news when it first came out, the first ever fecal transplant, where they actually transfer poop from one person to another so as to change the flora of a person's gut bacteria. It can cure ulcers, it can cure depression, it can cure so many different things just by giving your intestines kind of that boost. And really changing your diet and exercise. And really, if you wonder the importance of diet, there it is. It's just, it's not just about yogurt, folks. It's about everything that you eat. And like I said, do some reading on the recent science into the gut bacteria, the gut biome, and what it does for you. It's hugely important. So, but hey, that was that story. And again, I love it. And being able to, like they said, kind of make gel from your own bacteria as opposed to introducing potentially harmful or other people's bacteria, which can have adverse effects. Again, to wrap it back around to the story, making bandages that are your own bacteria keeps you much, much, much healthier in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and if you're in medical science, if you're an advocate or a junkie on medical science, hydrogels. Learn more and more about hydrogels. big thing this day and age.
Are hydrogels the ones that they're going to be using? And by the way, we're going to go to break here in just a minute. But before we get to story number 4, but aren't hydrogels the substance that they're going to give, gunshot, puncture wounds, severe trauma? Isn't that what they're going to inject into people to kind of stymie the bleeding?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Ben, you start Googling it and you'll find out a wealth of possible applications.
Well, Ralph, actually, I didn't look at the clock. We're going to go to break right now. Everyone, stay tuned. More Computer America right after this.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare.
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Hello and welcome back into the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And everyone, if you missed any part of the program so far, and by the way, we are blazing through these stories. We're about to hit story number 4. And everyone, if you missed any part of it, check out computeramerica.com where you can find the podcast, anywhere where podcasts are heard, be it Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, so on and so forth. Give us a listen there. But hey, thank you for tuning into IRN. And on top of that, everyone, hey, we're going to have the show notes up after the program. And so with that being said, everyone, hey, we continue on. Ralph, thank you for continuing on with us.
Yeah.
And thank you. So yeah, like I said, let's go ahead, hit story number 4. And by the way, if whatever stories that we don't cover here on today's show, we'll put them in the show notes anyways. And hey, they're going to be as good. Like, it's not because we didn't get to them because they're bad. We didn't get to them because we just don't have time. So some more fun reading there if you would like. So Ralph, with that being said, story number 4.
That's right. It's bonus homework. If we don't get through all the stories, I got 12 of them for you today, and we're now hitting number 4, so you get the picture. But it's fun. Hey, we were just singing the praises of Harvard, right? Mm-hmm. Another Harvard story I couldn't resist. TechCrunch story by Devin Coldaway, and this headline is "Researchers at Harvard have developed RoboShorts, a true soft exoskeleton that helps users walk and run." Wow. Love it. Great picture, great video. Check it out. There's a video embedded in the article. Please go and check it out. It's really very, very cool. So when someone says robotic exoskeleton, well, for a lot of us who are movie buffs, sci-fi fans, the power loaders from the movie Aliens, remember all those years ago, Sigourney Weaver, are what come to mind for many people. Of course, the latest such exoskeleton from Harvard, however, is so low profile, you could wear it around the house. It's softer, smarter, and used for much more ordinary tasks, such as helping with walking and running. And already you can just think, how many people need help with walking with walking, let alone running, right? Now, designed by researchers at Harvard's Weiss Institute, the suit is a pair of shorts with a mechanism attached to the lower back and cables going to straps on the legs. Now, it's intended to simply assist the leg in its hip extension movement, common to most forms of locomotion. And here's the part that's really cool, the science part, how it works. An onboard computer and neural network detects the movements of the wearer's body and determines both the type of gait, walking or running, and what phase of that gait the leg is currently in. It gives the leg making the movement a little boost, making it just that much easier to do the movement in question. Love it. I think of so many semi-disabled people or people through injury or surgery may not have full use of their legs. They need help with walking. The running part's great, but the walking really is what motivates me.
For sure.
The device, shorts and all, weighs about 11 pounds. So at first you go, 11 pounds? Oh, forget it. No, stand by. Most of that is in a little battery and motor pack stashed at the top of the shorts near the body's center of mass, helping it feel lighter than it is. We all know if you have a properly adjusted backpack, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The sense of weight is so much less than if you have it, like so many of the school kids that walk by my house on the way to the school down in the corner, that, the backpack is draping down below their fanny, and you think, oh my Lord, it's like killing them. But if you're properly doing so, the same concept, they're positioning this 11-pound package in such a way that it minimizes its sense of weight, right? So possible uses, of course, to help an elderly person stand up from a chair or someone recovering from an accident walk farther without fatigue. The elderly person part, 11 pounds and so forth, even positioned well, is a little bit of a maybe, we'll see. But certainly someone recovering from an injury, that's very cool. And of course, no surprise, our military is interested in this new exoskeleton solution to help in the treatment of wounded soldiers, so for therapy purposes and so on, and possibly other uses as well. What if you're a mail delivery person and you've got a super long route? Maybe this could be a helpful thing in the future as they get it more smaller and so forth and so on. Who knows, right? Maybe it's solar powered.
For some reason, you said mail carrier, and I was like, actually, what if the mail carriers of the future, instead of those boxy trucks, what if they're just mailmen or mail people, I should say? Excuse me. Wow, gotta be very politically correct. But what if the letter carriers are just in exosuits, and you see them just running everywhere, carrying all the Amazon packages?
Amazon packages, yeah.
Yeah, that would be certainly different. But yeah, and really, this is a part of robotics because, like you said at the very beginning, I think a lot of people think about those kind of big power loaders from aliens and things like that. The soft robotics, like this company kind of specializes in, or the Weiss Institute.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting that exoskeletons are going to be really these things that you kind of put on, just as much as like a weightlifting belt, that people wear sometimes when they, lift heavy things. This is going to be as standard of fare, I think, not just for the elderly. Obviously you can see in therapy where this be helpful, but when the military said that, I was thinking this is going to be standard issue for every soldier, because if you can get soldiers, in dangerous places or places that they need to go without being exhausted physically and therefore mentally, they're going to perform better as soldiers. And I can see if they make this cheap enough and if it's easy enough, just cables and a battery pack. Hey, this is going to be everywhere. It's going to be in warehouses, the military, and people's homes.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. In fact, you mentioned the military, and we've been talking about that. Again, I'll go back to my old days. And from 1971 to 77, I was in the Army National Guard. And we would have to pull guard duty. And guard duty is exhausting, not because you're doing something physically, but you're standing in some particular place, maybe walking a little bit on guard duty for 4-5 hour shifts.
Yeah.
And trust me, if you had something that would help augment, reduce that fatigue, that could be of interest too. It's not very sophisticated. Exactly. It's not very exciting or elegant. And then there's one other soapbox I got to drag out and beat the drum on. And that is, I think, freestanding autonomous humanoid robots, that's nice. Friends, my personal belief is the future is the augmented human. Robotics to augment us. Someday we'll get to those robots like in Westworld, but for now, and for the foreseeable future, I really think the money shot, as it were, is augmenting us. So I'll leave that be. That's my personal opinion.
It's anything that humans have to do. Can robotics make us do it better or help us do it better?
Yeah.
And especially when they're just, like they said, like it's not, this one isn't complicated. It's a pair of shorts and you're good to go. So I think that's going to be the number one. I'm hoping personally, these and because they made it so lightweight, and we just watched the video while we were while you were kind of going over the salient points. I'm hoping no one listening to this, and this is because I've never run a marathon, but if I was going to cheat in a marathon, having someone about a mile in, having one of these and giving them to me and letting me run a marathon much more easily than my competitors, I feel like this little augmentation, depending on how long the battery lasts, this little augmentation could actually make you a better runner than the majority of your other non-augmented kind of competitors.
Yes.
It's crazy. And hey, or it could even make me, Ben, a competitive marathon runner because I've never trained and my body shape is very non-aerodynamic. Maybe this is just what I need to actually do it. So with that being said, story number 4, story number 5 now. Story number 5.
Yes.
Luckily I've never had any family member go through dialysis or anything like that. This is something that I've never, kind of had to deal with, myself, family, anything like that. But I know that waiting for transplants and going through dialysis is a very, very tough road to kind of deal with.
Yes.
So anything that makes it easier, anything that helps people live longer while they do this, beautiful. Story number 5.
Yeah, story number 5, which brings up something I hadn't been aware of before, because again, I don't have personal experience like you with a family member or thank God not myself with dialysis. Anyway, this story comes from Science News. Headline: blood vessels built from people's cells, your own cells, could help dialysis patients. From Science News, as I mentioned before. Here we go. Hundreds of thousands of people in the United States require blood vessel implants for dialysis. Now, that's the part I didn't know. The minute you read that, you think about it, you go, oh, yeah, because they're hooking you up. Sometimes multiple times a week. I don't recall for sure. But, oh, gosh, that's got to be terribly debilitating to your natural blood vessels. So there's this world of blood vessel implants for dialysis patients. I didn't know that. And again, that's fascinating. So, but the problem. Traditional blood vessel implants composed of synthetic polymers or donor tissue are liable to, no surprise, trigger inflammation or immune system rejection. Okay, so there's the problem. In clinical trials, lab-grown, bioengineered blood vessels created by medical research company Humacyte, and I separated that out in my notes to help me pronounce it, but it's Humacyte. So this company, Humacyte, in Durham, North Carolina, were implanted into patients undergoing dialysis, and they successfully integrated into patients' circulatory systems. So bioengineered blood vessels created by this company in Durham, North Carolina, successfully integrated into patients' circulatory system. Wow. This is really great news potentially for people suffering from this debilitating disease and procedure they have to go through. So the team at Humacyte created each blood vessel, I love this, by seeding a biodegradable polymer tube first with vascular cells from a deceased donor. A little creepy, but that's the deal. Inside a bioreactor tank that supplied the vascular cells with nutrients, these cells multiplied and secreted proteins that formed an intercellular network. Now, after 8 weeks, the polymer scaffold had broken down, and the researchers stripped the donor cells from the remaining protein tube, leaving no living material behind. By the way, scaffolding in bioengineering is a big deal. The vessel about 6 millimeters across, was then implanted into the patient, where the patient's own cells gradually migrated into the tube. The newly engineered blood vessels didn't trigger any significant immune reactions in any of the patients tested by this company. So kind of detailed, kind of geeky, a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but go to the show notes, get the link, read the full story. I just think it's super encouraging for anybody who's suffering from this disease and has had difficulty with the artificial blood vessels for this treatment. So cool story.
Yeah, and like you said, I've never really thought about the idea that, when going through all this, you destroy the blood vessels that carry the blood. Because I knew that obviously when you go through dialysis, you treat the blood, you get the toxins out, things that your kidneys, I think, right? Or kidneys or liver. Would naturally kind of filter out by itself. Right. But man, 8 weeks in a reactor to make these things. This one may actually be above me. Like I used to work in creating medical stuff in a facility. I was pretty good at this, but on like living cells and having to, essentially, I don't know, incredible. And hopefully that leads to a better, or at least a longer treatment time for people on dialysis. Because again, the whole point of dialysis is that it's kind of a waiting thing. You're waiting for that transplant. So the longer we can keep people on dialysis, and hopefully, we don't need to keep them on for that long, the better chance we have of finding them a donor.
Yeah. So, that's a good point.
Very uplifting story. Now, story number 6, and then we might start jumping around, but we're going to cover story number 6 as well, and then let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, so now we get the spooky military stuff, okay? This comes from the United Kingdom's Daily Mail, which does a great job. UK-based newspaper, the Daily Mail, does a fantastic job tracking what our Defense Department scientists, or scientists commissioned by the Defense Department, are doing. So if you want to know what's going on in our own Defense Department science research, read the United Kingdom's Daily Mail. They've got a beat on this. Okay, here's the headline. Our military, working on self-destructing material that disappears in an instant to carry out covert missions without leaving any trace. Story by James Perot.
Oh, so this is what we're going to be. This is what we're going to be painting all of our spies with.
Well,
just head to toe.
It's more for package delivery.
Okay.
And there's a video. See, it's and this is bleeding edge research, so this is not deployed right now, but the implications are pretty cool. So new polymer,
and by the way, Ralph, I apologize for kind of stepping on you here, but I did just want to mention that the video you included in the article, you must have found a really good one, because they turned it private. They don't want anyone to watch it. So there's a difference between taking down a video and making it private. So they set it to private so no one could watch it. I don't know if that's
we are into spooky territory.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that, because we were going to watch the video, but let's just do the article. So
dang, it was working just yesterday. So I checked it. Just anyway. Okay, so this new polymer has been created that can vanish when in contact with sunlight, or by the push of a button. It can be electrically activated. So a little side note here, a polymer is a substance that has a molecular structure consisting chiefly or entirely of a large number of similar units bonded together. For example, many synthetic organic materials used as plastics or resins. So there's, you've heard the term polymer a million times. Now, back to the story. For covert military operations, the polymer could be used as a delivery vessel and vanish rapidly afterward. So this material maybe you deploy from a drone or something. It could have some kind of sensor embedded in it or something. And anyway, you can just start thinking about the possibilities. The polymer disappears in an instant. You push a button to trigger an internal mechanism, or when the sunlight hits it. This is freaky deaky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The scientists say the material made by the researchers at the American Chemical Society for the Department of Defense could be used to deploy electronic sensors and deliver military equipment covertly by dropping off packages and leaving no sign that the delivery vehicle, not the device, leaving no sign that the delivery mechanism, aka the polymer, material was ever there. So freaky stuff.
Yeah, and again, I'm trying to think of kind of where this comes in, and I guess I'm guessing you would take or kind of make a drone from this or something, or I'm having a
Yeah, me too. I was thinking, say you had a gelatinous mass,
Yeah.
and embedded in it would be a sensor or something, or some little device you want to remote control. Something maybe small, and this is just showered down, or Internet of Things dropped like thousands of them over an environment, and then the delivery disappears, meaning the material, the polymer
Right.
disappears.
So
And
maybe
the little thing goes off.
So maybe something like and those pneumatic tubes with like that hold that little plastic thing. Like maybe you make that plastic thing out of this. Drone would drop it off, and then the like they said, the delivery vessel itself would disappear. So that just leaves whatever you would want in it to be there.
Well, yeah. You
Yeah.
think about the old days, Ben. Think of the old days. You parachute something in, right? Well, the parachute's there. The bad
Yeah,
guys go,
exactly.
oh, wait a minute. Something's been delivered here, or whatever. But if it parachute could magically disappear, so to speak,
Right.
wouldn't that be cool? And that's why the Department of Defense is so interested in this research.
I'm hoping that this leads to something that's for everyday use. I'm hoping this leads to something that could be, I don't know, better biodegradable. Something that would leave no trace, and because I'm thinking plastics and how do you steer away from plastics. Maybe something like this would be good for I don't know, anything else. But hey, if it's just military,
I have to say this use model by my 3-month-old grandson,
Right.
Skylar, my daughter's baby, tends to not keep his food down very much. Now, wouldn't it be cool if I can inject him with something that would make that vomit disappear the minute it sees sunlight, or I can press a button. Bye.
I don't think we're ready to bioengineer our babies just yet, but maybe one day. Now, let's go ahead and let's see. Actually, I was going to check out some of these other ones. Story number 7 is pretty interesting with the ship and that kind of thing. But story number 9 actually catches my eye, and that is kind of a pun on what story number 5 or story number 9 does. So let's talk about this.
Yes, this is cool. Creepy and cool all at the same time. Popular Mechanics, story by Courtney Linder. Headline: Nanoparticles will give you superhuman night vision. Well, being a superhero fan, I got to see this. No pun intended. There's a link and there's a video. And we've got a little bit of a chart from the video that's pretty cool. Here's the scoop. Researchers from the University of Massachusetts Medical School have discovered a way to give mice the ability to see infrared light, a part of the visible spectrum we humans simply cannot see, although it's there, of course. Now, infrared light has longer wavelengths than the visible spectrum, so it's invisible to us. The scientists developed what they call, now get ready for this mouthful, they developed what they call ocular, injectable, photoreceptor binding up conversion nanoparticles. Say that even one more time quickly. To anchor them onto retinal photoreceptors in the eyes of the test mice. Now, these nanoparticles injected into the eyes of the mice contain 2 rare earth elements which help convert the infrared light into a higher energy green light that mammal eyes can detect. Now, a little side note of my own, the injection into the eyes of mice, which sounds horrifying, right?
Yeah.
Is the same procedure as an intravitreal injection in which a doctor delivers a shot of medicine into a human's eye. So this is something they do to people. I hadn't heard of this. Thank God I've never had to have this. I think it would just freak me out. After just one injection, however, and going back to the test here, after one injection into the mice's eyes, the effects last at least 10 weeks. What? To avoid injections for humans, thank goodness, the researchers said the team is working on trying to create a contact lens version of this technology. So I just loved it. I love superheroes, so I had to check this out.
Contact lens seems to be, one of the favorite ways that we're going to implement technology and augmentation into people. I recall a couple of years ago they created a a contact lens that let people actually zoom in. You can actually get 2 to 4 times zooming. And it was a contact lens that actually would change its shape. So it kind of it make that zoom in effect. If they could do that with ultraviolet, or maybe even one day something like, let's say, a heat sensor or things like that. Like personally, I would kind of want that in like glasses more than contacts. But if you could do it in contacts, that'd be cool too. So I don't know. I'm glad, like you said, that they are not pursuing this injection method.
That sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does not seem like a procedure that many people would opt into. That kind of thing. But very, very interesting. And the infrared lights. Although I'm also kind of curious about kind of our society that we live in. Think about how many things operate on the infrared spectrum, because it doesn't affect human vision. Your TV remote, your garage door opener, your a lot of night vision cameras and things like that actually emit infrared light. I'm wondering if it would even be feasible at this point, because we're surrounded by this stuff. Would you want to see all that?
Yeah, it's obviously a special use situation.
Yeah,
not for every day, all the time.
Yeah, I definitely found that interesting. So with that being said, let's go ahead and skip on over once again to story number 12. And this is an idea that I really want to push to our audience, because whenever I can, I try to cover as many autonomous driving stories as I can. Because, hey, we're living about 4 to 5 years ago, Elon Musk said that by 2019, self-driving cars would be on the road. And I get so many messages, so many emails, so many things like that asking, hey, where are those self-driving cars? Shouldn't they be here by now? So I try to cover autonomous vehicles as much as I can to kind of show people that, it's a slow adoption. It's a slow rollout. We're going to see them in very specific use cases, but they are here. They're here today. So story number 12.
Yeah, story number 12, a company called Optimus. I got this from their website. Optimus Ride is the name of the company, launches New York State's first commercial self-driving vehicle system at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Now, you made a couple of good points. This is a controlled situation. It's not running around all over Manhattan. It's the Brooklyn Navy Yard. But the implications are very important, I think, in terms of the world of autonomous vehicles. So key question we all have to ask ourselves, would you ride on an autonomous vehicle in a city environment? The folks at Optimus Ride are hoping the answer is yes. Again, this is a contained situation, not all over Manhattan with the taxis and everything else. But beginning August 7th, so it's already happening, 6 autonomous vehicles about the size of a large minivan, and the picture in the show notes really give you a sense of that, will transport passengers within the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Now, the Brooklyn Navy Yard is a 300-acre, so it's big, industrial park with more than 400 manufacturing businesses and 10,000 employees on site. So it's like a little city unto itself, a small city. Each autonomous van seats 6 passengers with exterior doors on both sides for each row. So it's very, very convenient, very cool. I think I love the design. The goal, according to the Optimus Ride announcement, the system will provide access to and experience with autonomous vehicles for thousands of people, helping to increase acceptance and confidence in this new technology. And I think that's an important point. The Optimus Ride autonomous vehicles will transport an expected 500 passengers per day and more than 16,000 passengers per month. Now, initially, just at the beginning, there will be a safety driver and software operator in the vehicle while in operation. Now, here's a key point. This is not the first time this company's tried this. This is not their first effort. They have developed their vehicles in several Boston area locations and successfully completed more than 20,000 trips since the company's launch in 2015. And if you've ever been to Boston, and if you've ever tried to drive around in Boston, if an autonomous vehicle can do 20,000 successful trips in that nutcake, crazy mess of a street layout in Boston, then I think they're onto something. But anyway, fun story, and again, the implications for the future I think are strong.
Yeah, and really, what they're trying to do is exactly what I try to do by exposing stories like this to the audience. Like they said, helping to increase acceptance and confidence. Right. Because when the only stories that you hear about autonomous vehicles are something crashed, something killed, something blah blah blah, you create a lot of fear in a technology where, like they said, they've already done this successfully many times. You just don't hear about, oh, it successfully took me 3 miles. No one cares. That's not exciting. But there you go. Ralph, we're out of time. If people want to find out more, I assume go to your website?
It's super easy. Just do a Google or browser search, Ralph Bond and the word Wix, W-I-X, and that'll take you right to the link for my website.
And of course, we'll have a link in the show notes. So Ralph, I want to thank you so much. This was a great show as always. Thank you so much, and we'll definitely catch you next month. Thank you so much.
You got it.
All right, and everyone out there, remember, no new Computer America next week, but after that, we'll be back next Monday. Everyone, have a safe one. Be good, everyone. Bye-bye.